Amazing Spider-Man and Superman are coming close to the end, while Catwoman says yes to the dress in Batman. What's up, everybody? I'm Stan, and welcome to Detail Comics, where we go over comics in detail. This is Preview Picks, the show where I go over all the comic books that are coming out on Wednesday, give you an idea what they're all about, and whether there's something you should talk to your comic book shop about. Make sure you subscribe to get more of these every single Monday. The first book that I want to talk about right now is Astonishing X-Men number 10, which continues on with the Proteus story, which is dealing with also a man named X. So Charles Xavier has returned from the Shadow Realm, fighting against the Shadow King and all that kind of stuff in Astonishing X-Men, and overall it's been a pretty promising book. Not quite as big a fan of this one as I am of X-Men Red, but overall it's a pretty good read for somebody that's an X-Men fan. Also coming from X-Men, we've got All New Wolverine number 33, which starts off the Old Woman Laura arc, which is the last arc for Tom Taylor's take on the All New Wolverine before it gets rebooted sometime in July or August with the X-23 story. So it's going to be your last real sampling of Tom Taylor, who's been writing a fantastic run on the Wolverine storyline, especially when he's talking about portraying Gabby, this, great little character with a pet Wolverine. So I'm interested to see who this All New Wolverine is in the future, Old Woman Laura, and whether we're going to get Gabby to make an appearance or otherwise. Another Marvel comic that's coming to its end is Black Bolt number 12, which has been critically acclaimed and been one of the best stories that's coming out about the hero in quite some time. Of course, you also have stunning art from Christian Ward during this series, who's just splashed himself all over the page. I can't recommend it really enough. Overall, going back to see this book and take it in, it's something that I'm probably going to recommend in trade, and if you guys haven't had a chance to pick it up, I'm going to link you up down in the description so that way, if you want to pick it up, you can give it a shot. Jumping over to DC, let's talk about Deathstroke, which number 30 starts up the part 1 of Batman versus Deathstroke, or Deathstroke versus Batman, however you want to see it, but it is going to be the ultimate showdown between Batman and Deathstroke, so we're going to get to see who comes out on top between Bruce and Slade. Overall, this isn't something that I can miss, and I can't recommend that you guys miss it either. It's going to be a barn burner. Then we can jump over from one War Machine in Deathstroke to another War Machine in the Punisher, as his armor is kind of on the fritz, but we've got to finish out this whole Punisher goes global situation that Matthew Rosenberg's put us in. So even though the War Machine armor has been in a better state, he still needs to take out this dictator and free this country before he has to go and face the music for what he's done back in America. So I'm excited to see where Matthew Rosenberg's bringing the Punisher. It's a book that's, well, it's graphic, and get ready for more in this one. At least that's what it looks like. Since we were talking about Christopher Priest in Deathstroke, let's talk about Christopher Priest in Justice League number 42, and that's going to be continuing the Justice Lost storyline, and if the cover is any indication, Who Shot Wonder Woman is going to be the topic, and I'm sure it's going to be pretty interesting. Of course, this is going to be one of a few issues that he's got left until Scott Snyder takes over for the No Justice storyline and his reboot of Justice League, which is coming out in July. So enjoy it while you can, because it's going to get crazy, especially if Dark Knight's Metal is any indication. Then over in Independence, we have Dr. Starr in the Kingdom of Lost Tomorrows, which is getting issue number 2, and that's part of the ever-expanding Black Hammer universe. There are a few announcements that just came out regarding new Black Hammer books that are going to be continuing to expand Jeff Lemire's universe, and I'm really excited to see where this goes, because the Sherlock Frankenstein book and so far Dr. Starr have been really great additions, and then of course you've got more oncomings as far as Black Hammer and a few other books that they just announced. I'm really excited, and it's something that you guys should be really excited about, because it's expanding and creating this brand new universe outside of DC and Marvel constraints. It's really exciting. I'm super amped for it. However, I am a little bit less amped for Avengers number 687, which comes out this week. With the Hulk depowering at the end of 686, it feels like he's going to be outside the storyline for a little while unless something crazy happens, and that was probably the most exciting part of No Surrender for me. While I am intrigued by Voyager, the Grandmaster, and how this game's going to play out, I don't necessarily feel like it's going to have the consequences that I'm expecting, because Avengers is going to get rebooted upcoming in June. So there's only a few issues left to kind of wrap this up before we get into a completely new team, and I'm not sure how it's going to affect the rest of the Marvel Universe. Speaking of universes, though, let's talk about the Bizarro versus Superman 44 continues the combat between Bizarro and Superman, and now we've got all kinds of different Bizarro versions. I really think that this is Patrick Gleason's way of kind of introducing everybody that he possibly can from the Bizarro-verse. You know, Lex Luthor with long locks of hair flowing in the breeze, and all kinds of different versions of this kind of big fat Flash and all this kind of stuff. It's really fun to take a look at the cover, and I can't wait to see what kind of story they're telling inside this. I was really excited with 43, 44 is going to be no exception, and Superman continues to be one of the best books from DC, and I'm not going to make that exception until we see Brian Michael Bendis and what he can do. There is a writer we do know what he can do, though, and that's Dan Slott, and he's on Amazing Spider-Man 798, which is getting close to the finale. We already know that his last issue is going to be 801, so we've got 798, 799, 800, and 801. We got four more Dan Slott issues. For some people, that's too many. For some people, that's not enough. But one thing's for sure, we haven't seen Red Goblin yet, and speculators already have this book selling at over $10 an issue on eBay. So make sure that you contact your comic book shop and get a copy at cover price, because it's not worth paying more than that until you actually know that somebody's coming out there. If the pages are leaked, sure, fine. Fuck it, whatever. But speculation, not necessarily the greatest game to get in, especially when it comes to a Dan Slott story and a brand new character like Red Goblin that may or may not deliver. Another series that might be suspect as speculation is Batman, and Batman number 44 gets us ready for the wedding of the century, the wedding of Batman and Catwoman, and it's got a variant where Catwoman's in her wedding dress and Bruce is in his tuxedo on the main cover, so I'm sure the variants are, everybody's going to want to buy this as a set so that way they've got everything for it, and okay, sure. Do it. Why not? But the interesting thing is going to be how they actually get to the wedding and what happens during that point in time. Based on solicitations for future issues, we don't necessarily know if it even goes through, but I'm excited to see where it goes. Tom King didn't really disappoint with the Poison Ivy arc, even though it wasn't necessarily a strong, powerful ending. It was something that you could feel on the inside, which is always appreciated. Hopping back over to Marvel, let's talk about New Mutants Dead Souls number 2, again from Matthew Rosenberg, and this is going to be telling the story of a older group in current day with Ilyana having almost like this mullet thing. It's a really cool team. It's a really interesting concept. I hope that there's a lot more action that goes into it, because when the New Mutants are walking around just talking, it's not nearly as interesting as when they were fighting things. And I'm looking for the art to really kind of come into its own. Dead Souls number 2 is a book that I'm going to be picking up. However, I might have to drop off this miniseries if it's not going to deliver for me what I'm really looking for. There is a series over at DC that has been delivering, though, and that is Batman White Knight. And issue number 7 comes out with this pretty fantastic variant. If you haven't been collecting the variants, haven't been getting the main copy of the issue and the variant cover, well, I think you're missing out, because some of the best art has been on the variant covers, but the art is still fantastic on the inside. Though Sean Gordon Murphy has an interesting writing style, going between very sparse pages with lack of dialogue to very, like dense, thick-ass pages with tons of exposition and all kinds of different stuff that you have to digest. It's definitely been a winner. As far as the story, I think that the Elseworlds, as well as things like this, which would have been on the Black Label imprint if it came out, are going to be the future of DC-type stories, so that way they can fold in whatever continuity they want to without having to worry about it. And that's half of the reason that they broke the source wall open in Dark Knight's Metal. If you haven't read that, you can check out the video, so that way we can talk about Dark Knight's Metal and where it kind of moves DC into the future, but utilizing Batman White Knight in some sort of future kind of crossover universe dealy, that's what you can expect. So I'm excited for Batman White Knight, just because it's a good story, and then the potential that these stories have in the future, since it's a success, is always great. But what we can do right now is jump back over to Marvel for one of the best comics in print, and that is Marvel 2-in-1. Number 5 is coming out, and overall, this story between Johnny Storm and Ben Grimm's The Thing is just... I love it. I just can't... I'm unabashedly enthusiastic about this story, simply because it's giving me everything that I want. It's got a strong relationship between the characters. We get to jump between universes. We get to see alternate versions of things. I mean, fucking Doom took over the mind of Galactus and ate the rest of the universe. It's fucking crazy. I mean... Bah! Just insane, and it's so good, and we get to see the conclusion of that. We get to see Ben Grimm go face-to-face with this alternate universe Reed Richards and call him a coward or whatever. I'm gonna have to bleep out some of this stuff, or I'm just gonna have to cut it, but it's just... I'm loving everything about this, and I'm really appreciative of what Chip Zdarsky's doing in expanding the Marvel mythos. It's a winner for me, and should be a winner for you. Now to finish things off, let's talk about new number 1s, and let's talk about Analog number 1 from Jerry Dugan, who's been writing Guardians of the Galaxy and is now on the Infinity Countdown storyline, and an upcoming announcement that I'm going to be talking about in another video. But what he's doing is he's writing a book called Analog number 1, which is going to be released by Image. It's not something that I really paid any attention to the flavor text of, simply because it's not the way that I like to experience comic books. If we're talking about independent books, I like to go into the shop, read the first few pages, see if the art style connects with me, and if it's something that I want to jump on board with. So I wanted to let you guys know about that too, so that way you at least would have that kind of experience. Also, another new number 1 you should be looking out for is Isola number 1, which is really geared towards people that are fans of Miyazaki's films, things like Howl's Moving Castle, The Wind Also Rises, and a variety of other different things. That's what the flavor text said about that, but again, it's a book that I'm going to have to take a look at and see exactly what we're getting as far as a storyline before I make my decision with my wallet. The final number 1 that I want to talk about is an addition to the DC New Age of Heroes lineup, and that is Curse of Brimstone number 1 by Philip Tan and Justin Jordan. So when we're talking about this kid in coal country that makes a deal with a demon in order to save his town by getting superpowers, but it just ends up making things worse, We're talking about the Curse of Brimstone. What I want to see is I want to see this tie into the Dark Metal multiverse a little bit more. The Dark Knight's Metal multiverse hasn't really had that much exposure inside mainstream titles, or at least not yet until we get to No Justice and a few things after that, and then possibly an arc in Wonder Woman that's coming up soon. The thing is, the DC New Age of Heroes books, they've only tangentially tied into it. Sideways just says, hey, I got my powers by falling through the Dark Multiverse when Challenger Mountain appeared in Gotham. And the Terrifics got stranded in the Dark Multiverse for like an issue and a half, and then came back, and now they're tied together. Are they going to have to venture back into there until they find a solution for this? We don't necessarily know, but hopefully Curse of Brimstone calls a demonic entity from this other world in order to do that, or possibly this is an alternate universe history that's being told about this character inside the Dark Multiverse compared to inside the main DCU. However, I don't necessarily know if this is what I'm looking for out of the DC New Age of Heroes initiative. I don't know what you guys are thinking, so hit me up in the comments down below and we can start that conversation. Do you want things to tie in a little bit more to Metal, or do you think that you've already got the heroes that you need in Damage, Sideways, the Terrifics, and it only needs to say, hey, maybe this was caused by Metal? So hit me up in the comments down below and we can start that conversation. As always, if you like what you see, hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe to get more news, reviews, and commentary on comic books, comic book movies, comic book TV shows and games, and anything and everything inside the world of comics.